So today we have Erica with us, so we can interview her. And so Erica, just I know you know about our program probably through your sister Isabel and what we do, but Amplifying the Arts is our student organization about arts administration. And so we do multiple events for all types of artists, music artists all the way through visual artists and everything in between. So we are excited to have you tonight to hear about what you do and to interview you. So we can hop in, and I'm going to ask you, start with some questions, and then I'm going to open it up and also ask my board to ask you questions if they have any. So.
Awesome. So my alma mater is the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts, and that is where I work currently. So in late 2018, the Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts received a grant from the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation to support the launch of the MCLA Institute, which is where I work. So I'm the coordinator of the Institute, and what my work focuses on is promoting equity and justice on campus and in the community by increasing access and engagement with arts and humanities resources. And so I think it's important to note that where I live in Berkshire County, we have the second largest arts economy per capita in the United States. And what that looks like is we have a crazy amount of arts organizations and cultural institutions that are doing really great work. And so my team and I, we have a really great understanding of how all of these local resources present opportunities to connect the classroom and the community. But unfortunately, all of these resources remain underutilized. People just don't know about them or don't know how to go about it. So my job really focuses on creating opportunities for interdisciplinary engagements, collaborations, and I also explore how to advance experiential teaching and learning practices, which is a lot. So in some of my work looks at diversity programming, but at the heart of it, we look at how the arts play a special role in creating these experiential spaces for dialogue, education, and action. And so I love this quote here, not only because W.E.B. Du Bois, his homestead site is one of our local treasures, but I think he does a really great job of naming why the arts are essential and how they take us outside ourselves. And so a lot of the work I'm doing is creating those kinds of spaces for students, faculty, and community members. And so I started this work in 2017 when I was actually a student and a research associate. And so I did a lot of research. I started researching about like 980 nonprofits and looking at all the programming that they were doing. And I started to see like my own multicultural identity reflected. And I think that's really important for students. So I self-identify as an Afro-Latin woman, and so moving to this area can be a difficult adjustment, especially for our students of color. So North Adams, where I live, is 87% white. The college where I work, our faculty and staff demographic is 89.5% white. And so I'm speaking in terms of like racial diversity, but it's safe to say that there isn't as much diversity as they praise. And because of this, a lot of students from different backgrounds kind of have to find ways to navigate those discomforts. And I don't think that's right. I work with a lot of students now, and I don't think I would ask them to put themselves into a box and fit for the comfort of others. And so another aspect of my work is figuring out how to empower students to embrace their cultural experiences and then invite the community to celebrate those differences as well. So I think as a result of my relationship to this work, cultivating a welcoming environment, cultivating a sense of belonging is a huge work. And I also feel really passionate in our ability to like leverage and facilitate social change as well as structural transformation. So that's just the work that I do at MCLA. And so this is a picture of downtown. My apartment is actually right up the street, and the college, you just take a left. It's a very small town. But in addition to my work at MCLA, I'm also the youngest appointed board member for WAM Theater, Where Arts Meet Activism. And so WAM is focused on producing theatrical events with a focus on women, and a portion of all their proceeds are donated to organizations that work for the betterment of women locally and then globally. To date, we've donated over $75,000, and we're continuing this kind of impact work in other ways by, I don't know if any of you have heard of We See White American Theater. It's a list of demands from Black, Indigenous, people of color. If you haven't, I'm encouraging all arts managers to check it out because it really invites us to think about how we move into the field and create these equitable spaces, because a lot of the structures prior aren't inclusive. So oh yeah, here's a nice picture of all the people that I get to work with. Another board that I'm joining in like 3 weeks is Multicultural Bridge. And so Bridge is a grassroots organization focused on offering cultural competency training, multicultural awareness, positive psychology, mutual aid and understanding. They are a woman-run, minority-run organization certified by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And another aspect of this work is I get to work with some people like here. So here's Gwendolyn, who is the CEO of Multicultural Bridge. This is the Massachusetts State Senator Adam Hines, and this is Shirley Edgerton, who is an absolute force when it comes to working with youth. And so I'm very young adult. I'm just 3 years older than Isabel. And so having access to the state Senate is a big deal. And so I'm really grateful to be able to work in these roles and affect change socially, structurally, and then like thinking in terms of legislation. And so then thinking about this comment of like, how does all of this work, how has it been affected by COVID? It felt like this, especially in the spring. You know, I had 2 interns who just fell off the face of the earth. We had to move to hybrid learning. But there are other ways that the work has responded. And I think Bridge, again, is another one. So they launched this new Pathways series over the course of the summer to bring the community together to talk about how all the things that we consider normal pre-COVID aren't actually normal at all because of the dominant and oppressive structures in place. And so it provided this platform for us to really think about visions for an inclusive Berkshire County, and we're still taking action on the things that were discussed then. So this is one of the positive ways we've responded, but unfortunately there are other aspects of my work that were affected, like my after school program. It was canceled this year. I offer this program called the Multicultural Alliance for students in grades 6 through 12, where we explore the power of art and culture and music. We were listed as like the classroom of the week. I have some cute photos of all my favorite students. We did Latin night. Of course, my computer doesn't want to load now. Some other things that we've done. Oh, yeah, I'm also a creative placemaker, which means I go out into the community and I hold space for people to have creative experiences and meaningful exchanges. And this year I wasn't able to really go out there and facilitate in the ways that I normally do. But thankfully, you know, the arts in various ways teach us how to find creative solutions to the problem at hand. So I challenged myself to adapt some of my creative aspects of the work and bring them into the classroom. So this year was the first time I got to teach at the college level officially. So this is my class, the Art and Social Justice course. And I co-taught that with Lisa Donovan over here, who she has a phenomenal TED Talk also if you're interested in how the arts can leverage change in rural areas. She's going to be so famous one day, I swear. But in this class, we did a lot of art making to explore in a hands-on way how the arts play a role in advancing change. And I think this is definitely one of the highlights of responding to COVID because, you know, despite all of the challenges that I'm sure you have faced in your own academic semester, these students showed up and they showed such great resilience and creative leadership. And we had this like bi-directional change. It wasn't just me and Lisa teaching them, they were teaching us the whole semester. So I think that was a long-winded way to say who I am and what I do. But
So then you also touched on that you're only a few years older than Isabel. So I really love talking to someone that's really just our age or a few years older than us. So do you have any advice for people just out of college getting into this type of industry?
Yeah. Some of the advice I was given was fake it till you make it. I agree with that, but I also really believe in the power of asking questions to understand. There's like, if I put on my administrative hat, it's like build up your resume, your portfolio, your LinkedIn, connect with people, stay in contact, write thank you notes. Like when you're at an event, socialize and find common interests. And the other part of me is just stay true to who you are. Dr. Lisa Donovan has taught me about the power of your core threads. So my core threads are multicultural education, creative arts, arts administration, and systems change thinking. I really want to just like not burn the system down, but rebuild it. So those are the things that I bring to the table whenever I'm in a space and I name it. And so someone else will be like, oh, I'm interested in that too. And you build a connection. The same thing. So I told you how I began this work when I was a student. There was an opportunity for my research to be brought in to the work. So if you're showing your passion, you're working really hard, people are going to see that and come back to you for it. Yeah, I guess I would say too, like depending on each industry, it's a little different. If you want to be like the artist who's doing things and acting, or if you want to be the arts administrator, there are different avenues to take. And I feel like I play a little bit of both. Also, arts education is another avenue.
Also, this job that you said is grant funded. Did you get it straight out of college because of the research that you started in college?
Yeah, so Dr. Lisa Donovan was like, you're really good at this kind of stuff. Do you want to work on this grant? And so it was awarded $50,000 at first to do research, and we were supposed to build a map of all of those like organizations that I showed you. And I had a problem with this where I was like, it's going to be very static. The map exists and that's it. There's nothing, no one else is going to be there to manage it. It's just going to live and do nothing. So we started compiling research on like, what are the specific programming that each of these organizations are doing and how would they translate to MCLA and blah, blah, blah. When we went to submit the grant, our funder had a change in leadership and asked us to kind of rewrite it and tweak it. So my research got put into the grant, which was really exciting, along with research from other colleagues. We had an interdisciplinary faculty cohort, so someone from history, English communication, arts, business. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting someone. And then we had an interdisciplinary student convening as well. So it's like, here's what faculty think would be beneficial. Students, how do you feel? So it was really collaborative. So when they funded us, it was, to create an institute with this speaker series and mini grant programming. So we have money to fund projects. We have money to engage faculty in a learning cohort. We have a community partnership grant. So like, especially now in times of COVID when organizations are struggling, it's like we have money if you want to come and do something with us. So yeah, I just being involved in the research and being passionate put me up to when the job became available. And so if I can find it, you go into like a regular interview and people ask you questions, like I was able to answer the questions with like all of the research present. So on that note too, keep some of the things from your undergraduate studies that are relevant to you that you might want to come back to and reference.
Awesome.
I did just want to say, oh, sorry, Maya. I'm really blown away by everything you do. So I commend you on that. And then my one question is, when you initially started in college, did you know you want to do all this stuff, or is this something that just kind of just happened?
No, I went to school to be a creative writer. And then I was super passionate about being a spoken word poet. And Isabel has seen a couple of my events. But I think it was this idea of your core threads. So, and a lot of the things a lot of the poets I was reading, a lot of the hybrid essays that I was exploring, there was always this core thread of multiculturalism that my professors kind of pointed out. And I, in high school, like hated the idea of being a teacher, but people again kept pointing out that I'm a strong educator, or I like working in these like learning environments. And I think like workshop facilitation kind of translated to education in those ways. But no, I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. Like this job that I'm in is temporary. It's grant funded. So if we don't get any more grant funds, I'm out of a job. And the board, you know, it's a volunteer work that I do. The after school program was like once a week. So I think it's just a matter of like, what are you interested in? What do you enjoy doing? And what are you talented at? And how do they intersect? And for me personally, how can they intersect to benefit others and create the change I want to see? I'm always thinking about the world that my kids will grow into.
One of my questions actually is about the Black Lives Matter movement, and if any of that had affected your work and how you worked with that, especially because you work for a university. So
yeah,
do you have anything to say about that?
I do, and I'm always trying to find the right way to say it. So as I said, you know, we have a very limited, diverse faculty and staff, but that also allows us to establish close relationships with our students. So we formed a solidarity group, which we communicate via Zoom, email, events, as a space to kind of just vent about how executive leadership at the college doesn't respond in the ways. It's kind of settled down now, but leading up to the election, there was a lot of harm being done against our students and against our staff and faculty. People were burning signs, Black Lives Matter signs, people were being followed, students were being harassed and so it was very difficult because at the ground level, so like you have the community, but then you have like the president and all of these people who have the decision-making power, and the North Adams police and campus safety weren't responding in the ways that we wanted them to. So we saw a lot of resilience in our community and coming together and supporting them. We're also doing more work. We've just, what's it called? This Compass Ambassador training to educate our white faculty and staff who aren't taking it as seriously as they should, because this is where students come to live. They call this place home. They shouldn't be experiencing harm, let alone then having that harm be ignored by the people who hold space for them. So, I mean, on top of just like, how do we educate our community and how to respond and be culturally competent, we've also just tried to create space to celebrate and experience joy and healing and care. So we have an annual day of dialogue where the Institute facilitated a self-care workshop. It was the highest attended workshop that entire day, and everyone was just really, really grateful to have that space to be vulnerable and open and kind of like release the grief on the shoulders for just a bit. I mean, I could go on the movement. I mean, I've also had the chance to work with the New York chapter leader of Black Lives Movement through my after school program. And yes, so there's a lot of ways that this has either affected or informed my work.
That's wonderful.
And inclusion in that sort of like area. I was just curious because I feel like a lot, like often when we hear the word like multicultural or diversity, we often think of minority groups, but like you said, that a lot of the percentage of the community that you work in is white. So I would imagine that when you have these programs that white people do show up, I would imagine, I feel like I saw there was maybe someone in a picture, I don't know, but so what is that like? What is the motivation behind those people? Are they there to learn? Are they there to see, like, what's the, and how does that work? And how does everyone feel in the room when there is like a white person, when most people expect it to be minority groups?
Yeah, one thing I'm learning is that, you know, a lot of this work does fall on the shoulders of people of color, and this work can invite us to relive trauma, and so it's very heavy on us. And so in this respect, we want and need white people to do more of the work. Also, a lot of these oppressive and dominant structures are upheld by white supremacy, and that's not just like being a white person, it's the characteristics of like this sense of urgency, I need to do it now, or praise of the written word. If it's not on paper, then it doesn't matter. There are all these characteristics that have been ingrained into our culture and in our organizations, and white people uphold them. So it's part of their responsibility to dismantle or to check or to disrupt. So in these spaces, yes, we have a lot of white people, but they're mostly women, which is great. You know, I love my women. Like WHAM Theater is just a completely women-run organization. But the voice that is missing, which is also the most dominant privileged voice, is white men. So there's a challenge there in bringing them into the conversation, especially when they hold all of these leadership positions or majority. But I mean, Berkshire County is seeing a rise in an immigrant population. We're seeing a rise in, like, it's gradual, but it's happening. And so now that we're having these conversations, especially with people in leadership, like, how do you respond and lead your company or your organization to meet the needs of this changing context? Sometimes, you know, we deal with white fragility, there are microaggressions, but we do a lot of community agreements and establishing space to make sure that, like, we handle them well. I'm also interested in this idea of courageous spaces versus safe spaces, because I think safe spaces, people are like, oh, I don't want to get into it because it disrupts me, it's uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. Whereas courageous spaces are asking you to kind of lean on your growing edge and do more of the uncomfortable work. So I think there's room for both of those. But yeah, I mean, it's been really wonderful to have them part of the conversation, because I do think a lot of work falls on their shoulders too.
Have you and your board discussed like how you guys are going to be moving forward with COVID-19 when like things get like back to normal, or how's your school been, I guess, like dealing with the whole issue?
Yeah, so at MCLA, we're doing a hybrid model. So students have to apply to stay at home. And then there's a really intensive process to make sure that they absolutely need to remain home. So then what that looks like is we have students on, we don't use Zoom, we use Microsoft Teams, which has been frustrating, but also a great platform at the same time. And then we have students socially distanced in the classroom with their masks on. It's been difficult to create assignments that impact them in the same way, but we're learning. Some classes are just completely online. Some are asynchronous. Our gathering spaces have their protocols. Like, our school has been really smart about COVID protocols. We all get tested regularly. But I think, Berkshire County at the beginning of this was a really, the cases weren't affecting us, but we're seeing that rise now. And so everyone is supposed to telecommute until spring, and then we'll see the announcement from our COVID committee. With WHAM Theater, we've done all virtual performances, and they were actually a phenomenal success. We've exceeded fundraising goals. People from across the country were attending our events and engaging with them. With Multicultural Bridge, I mean, they, as I talked about, they are responding to COVID in various ways. There's now this inclusive leadership program where 30 organizations will be coming together to strategize how we can, again, continue this inclusive vision of Berkshire County. Yeah, because I think COVID is just one spoke of, we have all of these other intersections that are affecting the community, and COVID just kind of exaggerates it all. So it's a lot of the same response measures, but, also figuring it out as we go.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But prioritizing the health of our community.
Of course.
So with your theater that you work for, I've heard a lot of mixed opinions on virtual theater. Some people hate it, some people love it. You said that it's been a success. Have you and your community actually taken well to virtual theater?
Yeah, so the MCLA Theater Department put on this production of The Race. And so, it was a Zoom platform, and it was very interactive. So participants were asked to answer questions in the chat. They were also invited to be part of the performance and answer questions on the spot. So I think in that way, it was successful because it was really interactive and taking full advantage of the platform. With WHAM Theater, So one of them was the Thanksgiving play, which is a satire directed by Larissa Horse from the Lakota Nation. And so it's these 5 theater artists exploring how to create a Thanksgiving play. And so it's satirical, it's a comedy, it's, you know, they're trying to be PC and exposing the ways that they're not. And so in that way, I think this one was also really informative and responded to the community's needs who want to know more about how do we support Indigenous artists and advocate and honor their land and their people. And so those, I would say that they're successful, and just, again, taking advantage of the platform and being able to reach people where they are and using the platform for what it offers.
Mm-hmm. Do you think people should continue to use this type of marketing tool after COVID's gone, more virtual type of things through things like theater, because now we're starting to learn how to use it?
That's an interesting question, because I do think we've seen some successes, but I don't know about you, I'm hungry for in-person engagements, and I say that as an introvert who loves her couch. No, but there's something really powerful about experiencing these things in person. Like if you're watching the play and someone's laughing next to you, like one thing that's lost with the virtual theater performance is everyone is on mute. So you can't kind of hear the gasps or the reaction or the laughter, or so I do think in that way, like when it is safe to gather, you know, there's going to be this revolution of coming together again. But I do think a lot of meetings don't need to happen. I mean, I guess it depends on the engagement. The things that work, but I imagine people are going to be hungry to get back together in person.
Yes,
But what to you makes art important or essential?
Yeah, it's a good one, and I answer it in different ways, but I think at the heart of it, art lets us take ideas and turn it into action. It can also act as like an equalizer, you know, when we can all look at the same piece of art and we'll have different reactions and experiences, but we're all called to feel something depending on the piece of art or experience. And I mean, I could read off all of these quotes about, like, you know, if the artist can't find a solution to human suffering, then no one can, or art is inexplicable, but also I don't know, it communicates to me more in feeling. I think it helps us, you know, it trains our brain to think in creative ways. It helps us be resilient. It helps us find understanding to what we're feeling. It helps us communicate. It's fun. Like, it's emotional. There's this one organization, or it's visual thinking strategies, where they'll bring a group of people together to look at a piece of art and bring up all of the things, you know, each of us will name like what we're seeing and how we're feeling, and then we'll go into breakout rooms and discuss it deeper. And, you know, something that we thought was just a painting reveals to be more of like a reflection of our own self and identity. But yeah, I mean, art lets us communicate the multifaceted nature of human experience.
Thank you. Thank you.
Then thank you so much, Erica, for letting us talk to you tonight.
Of course. And just as a reminder, you all are capable of like stepping into these leadership positions too. One of the things I'm learning is that they want people, young people at the table, to take advantage of it, because they need us. They need our insight, our voices. They can't create programs for us without us, you know? So take advantage of your youth.
Thank you.